Hi there, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp with a card showcasing stamps and dies from the new STAMPtember 2016 release. I am using quite a few new products here today. I've got the Hydrangea Blooms stamps and dies, the You Matter background, as well as the You Matter stamp set and You Die. So lots of fun new products. I'm going to show first stamping my Hydrangea Blooms. I used the Misty to stamp this image 3 times with the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink, one on top of another, to get a really nice, crisp black stamped impression. The Misty is fabulous when you need to stamp an image more than once right on top of each other, as well as creating multiples. So it's just another way to use this tool to get a really good stamped image. A lot of times with brand new stamps, you might get a kind of light image, or you might just want to stamp it a couple times to make sure the impression is really good before you color it. I've had times where I've had to go in with a black permanent marker and draw those lines back in. This is a way to get around that without having to draw anything in yourself, and it's so quick and easy. I am coloring my blooms in with some Copic markers. The colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen here. I love Hydrangea Blooms. I think they are so beautiful. I did my best to kind of, duplicate those beautiful flowers with my markers. I worked really hard on trying to find the right color combinations. I did like a Google search trying to see kind of what other people did, combined a couple of different color combinations that I saw from other things out there on the web, and just played around basically with my markers, trying to get something that looked good to me. I think the addition of that really light yellow green in the center, as well as the very, very light red violet to blend out those purples and blues or blue violets, really does kind of help with the building of these florals, making them look a little bit more realistic. I tried to keep some of the darker colors to the underneath areas, again, to add depth and dimension to the image. And I pulled in several different blue, violet colors, as well as the B63 blue color. It complements those colors really nicely. And I'm just going to color everything in with these markers. I did speed this up and I left it in because I think it's kind of interesting and fun to watch the creation of this image or watch it come to life with markers. So I did leave it all in here, but I sped it up because it did take a little bit of work. When you're coloring something brand new that maybe, for me, this was something I've not colored before with Copic markers or haven't colored in a while anyway. And I kind of wanted to play around with it. So sometimes those particular coloring projects do take a little bit more time, and that's fine. In fact, I colored this and then worked on the rest of the card later. It was more just one of those relaxing coloring projects at the end of the day where I just wanted to color, and that's always fun, but it did take a little bit more time. I did go back in and pull in a few more dark colors, add some more shading, went around some areas, blend that all out. And that's just going to build up that color really nicely. Now there are a couple of additional flowers from this stamp set. Again, I'm going to use the Misty to stamp these so that I can stamp them more than once right on top of each other to get a really nice stamped impression. I'm going to color these exactly the same. You can see how light they are right there. Ink it up again, and then go ahead and color them. And I just colored them right there. I already knew how I wanted to color them, so I just grabbed my markers, colored them up. Then there are coordinating dies for all of these images. However, there are some solid leaves and like a little branch image from the Hydrangea Blooms stamp set, and I'm going to stamp all of those so that I can die cut everything with one pass of my Big Shot machine. Now, just like with my flower outline images, I'm going to stamp my leaves more than once. I'm using Simon Says Stamp Willow ink, and I stamped them 3 times, one on top of each other, to get really nice stamped leaves. Same thing with my branch, using some dark chocolate ink. I stamped it more than once as well because it just wasn't getting that nice crisp impression that I wanted. I am snipping apart my dies. I think I used every single die from the Hydrangea Blooms stamp set. As well as this open Hydrangea Blooms image, there also is a solid image. So if you don't want to take all the time to color, go ahead and grab the solid image, stamp it. You could even add some shading with your Copic markers or other kinds of coloring tools, markers, pencils, whatever, and add a little bit of shading, and it would be much quicker than coloring all of these in like I did here. Run those back and forth through my Big Shot a couple of times. I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way. And I'm going to pop all of these images out. I have had several questions lately wanting to know what I use to hold my dies in place. You can use washi tape, repositional tape, all kinds of things. I like the 3M Post-it tape. It's the same product as Post-it notes, but it's in a tape form. And it is wonderful for using. And I reuse my pieces literally till they have no stick left to them. That way I'm not just using up a whole roll of Post-it tape, with all those little pieces. I just hold on to them and kind of stick them to the top of my Big Shot or whatever and use them over and over until they aren't sticky anymore. Now this is a background I die cut from some watercolor cardstock. It's A2 sized for now. I will trim it down a little bit later. I am taking that great You Matter background. I love Simon Says Stamp's text background stamps. They are fabulous. This is an incredible one. If you actually read the words on the back of this, I think it's amazing and it's great and it works for so many different kinds of cards. I stamped it with Versamark ink. And then I am sprinkling on white embossing powder. I used the Misty to stamp this as well. It is great for stamping backgrounds. You just remove that foam insert from the Misty when you're using a cling background stamp like this and stamp just as normal. It's wonderful. I'm going to heat up this entire background now until I get the embossing powder nice and melted. You want to make sure you keep moving it. You don't want to scorch the paper, especially with a white background like this. You can see where the powder has melted now. I even missed a little area up there, so I'll go back and catch that in a minute. But when you hold it at an angle like this, you can definitely see where you've melted and where you have not. You just want to make sure that you get it all melted really well. Make sure the paper has completely cooled before you grab your distress inks and add some color. Now I'm purposely going to leave in my mistake and show you how I fixed it. I started with some milled lavender and I thought I was going to try to combine purple and green. I mean, those are the colors here. I've got green leaves and purple, right? So I started with some crushed olive and I realized right away I did not like this color combination. I really tried to kind of make it work and I was like, this is just not what I was looking for. So instead, I grabbed my Blueprint Sketch Distress ink and immediately I could see that that was going to be what I wanted to do. I covered up the green with my Blueprint Sketch ink so that I didn't have to stamp another background. Add the embossing powder. If at all possible, I try to fix or cover up my mistakes, and this worked wonderfully. So Blueprint Sketch and milled lavender, they work great together. I spritzed it with water from a distress sprayer and then blotted it dry and did not like how it worked. And I ended up not even applying any more ink. I just buffed it with my paper towel and it smoothed the ink back out. So the distress sprayer, I did not even really use. So here is the basic design of my card. I've got a piece of fun foam here that I am covering both sides with stick-it material. This is a 3x4 square. It's just big enough to die cut the U, that great U text greeting. Now you can see that stick, it's not really coming all the way off. So to smush that on there good, I'm gonna run my fun foam with Stick It on both sides, back and forth through my Big Shot to really get that adhesive on the fun foam. Then I'm gonna take a little piece of white cardstock here and put that right over the adhesive. This is going to create a dimensional sticker. So I'm gonna take my U die, run that back and forth. It's gonna have, so it's basically the layers are cardstock, stick it, fun foam, stick it. Go ahead and pop that out, and gently, I'm going to pop out my die cut. This is one of my favorite ways to create dimensional greetings for cards. They are not super high dimensional, but they're just enough dimension to really add interest. At this point, you could add ink if you wanted to. You could have put a different color of cardstock on the top. There's lots of things to do. My second mistake, I kind of thought I'd have that U hanging off the bottom of the card design. So I've got a black strip of cardstock here. I am stamping another greeting from the You Matter stamp set that says Happy Birthday to. I'm going to stamp that with Versamark, sprinkle on white embossing powder, and then heat set that and adhere it along the bottom edge of my card with the loop from the Y hanging off. I did this card from start to finish. I let it sit for a couple of days actually, and it bothered me. I had photographed it, I had gotten the video ready, and I did not like it. It just was bothering me. I did not like how the loops were chopped off at the bottom, but I didn't want to redo the whole card. And so what I ended up doing, I'm going to show you both ways, because maybe it won't bother you as much, but I always think it's good to show how you can fix problems like this without redoing the whole design. So I've layered everything here, and I'm going to finish with my little blooms falling, from my hydrangea flower, and then even finish the card with a sprinkling of sequins. I'm adhering everything here so that it looks like my bloom is kind of coming in from that left corner of the card. I did originally adhere everything flat, and then I decided I did not like that. This is where I'm trimming everything off, and this is where I at the time I knew I didn't like it, but I thought I could make it work. But I went ahead and put foam adhesive behind that large hydrangea bloom, and I like how it pops it up off the background just a little bit. I'm going to go over all my flowers with a Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen. I love that little touch of glitter. It's really subtle, so pretty. Dresses it up just a little bit. I went ahead and adhered the whole panel to the front of my card base. Again, I trimmed off just a little bit around the sides to leave a little white border. These are those pretty Pink Posh sequins that I'm using. I believe I used, I can't remember the blue name. I believe it's Bermuda blue. It is listed and linked below the video. And then some metallic silver, and then some silver heart confetti as well, attached with the Ranger Multi-Medium. I always like to use a little of the multi-medium to attach the confetti, simply because it's so teeny tiny you can't use the Zotz Bling glue dots for that, which is what I used for the rest of the sequins. I'm going to add several little dots of this all over and then attach the confetti. There's really nothing wrong with this card design. I think just for me personally, that loop being cut off bothered me. Visually, it just bothered me. So what I ended up doing, like I said, a couple days later, I'm going to come back to this. This is the Stardust glitter pen, by the way, adding little dots of glitter to the center of each of the blooms. It's a little bit more showy than the Wink of Stella, and it's just to the center of each. Came back a couple days later and carefully peeled up the U, and I had to be pretty careful. I did not want to tear anything. And I'm going to very carefully peel up my Happy Birthday. I think the only reason I was able to lift that up was that it was adhered over an embossed image, and I think that embossing allowed me to lift that a little. I'm going to raise my strip there. You can see I raised it up a little bit. I have die cut another U from that fun foam. and I'm going to pop that right there. I lifted it up only enough so that the loop would be on the card base itself. I'll replace the blooms, and I am much happier with how this looks now. Thanks for joining me for the STAMPtember release showcasing stamps and dies, brand new for September 1st at Simon Says Stamp. The supplies I've used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos showcasing Simon Says Stamp stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.